Thank you for listening to this PodcastOne Sportsnet production, available on Apple Podcasts and PodcastOne.
The following program is a PodcastOne.com production. He started in a small town in Texas. Worked his ass off to become one of the most famous wrestlers of all time.
We're going to take care of business tonight, and that's the bottom line.
And now he's dominating the world of on-demand audio. And he's doing it for the working man.
This is a damn good outlet for me to spew the bullshit off my brain.
Yeah! This is the Steve Austin Show. Unleashed.
All right, everybody, welcome to Steve Austin Show. I am coming to you from the Broken Skull Challenge compound out here in Agua Dulce, California, where I just got my voice back today. It's Tuesday night as I record the open to this Thursday podcast. And I tell you what, this is about the second week we've been out here filming Broken Skull Challenge for CMT. And that first week kicked my voice's ass. I went home last Friday and I could barely speak. I got up Saturday and my wife couldn't even hardly hear me. It hurt to talk. It hurt to swallow food on Saturday, on Sunday. Luckily, we had Monday off because it was a holiday, and it hurt to swallow food then. But I started making a comeback as far as my voice goes. Now it's Tuesday. You can hear I'm about 95%, and I'm happy about that because it ain't worth a shit when you're used to talking shit all the time, and you can't talk shit no more. It's like C.T. Fletcher says, I got a low tolerance for pussies. My damn vocal cord's turning into a pussy. What the fuck is wrong with me? I got to be tougher than that. I'm running the toughest show on television. My goddamn voice crapped out. Well, I got it back now, and we're making a badass show coming to CMT on November 14th. Hey, before I start rambling and tell you guys a couple of bullshit stories, I want to talk about my guest today. My guest today is Missy Hyatt, one of my favorite personalities in wrestling from back in the day. I started watching pro wrestling when I was 7 or 8 years old. And then when I started watching Bill Watts, Mid-South Power Pro, that UWF stuff, as you'll come to hear in an interview, Missy Hyatt and that loaded Gucci bag, her epic battles with Dark Journey. I mean, that shit jumped off a damn television screen. And Missy's damn near the same age as I am. She just got into the business earlier than I did, so she was further along. She was in a national promotion, so she got great television time. And, man, you know, this was back in the day. You know, the mid-'80s was my favorite time in pro wrestling. That's when my fondest memories of the business are, whether it was Mid-South Power Pro, World Class, all that stuff going on in Crockett's, NWA, and some of the AWA stuff as well. And wrestling was much more regional than it is now, much more regional. So Missy Hyatt was one of my favorite people of all time in the business. She was just such a damn mess. She could create such havoc, get so much heat. She could be so just dastardly. Man, she made you mad and she made you feel something. And she was good looking. She had this southern drawl and she could just plain out be a pain in the ass. So Missy Hyatt is my guest today, and it was a thrill to talk to her and catch back up with her. I hadn't seen Missy in, over a decade, as you'll come to hear in this interview that I conducted just a few days ago with her. But it was good to hear her again and Skype with her. I could see her on my computer screen. It was great to see her again. And Missy's a person I got along with. Man, the few times we crossed paths, we just got along like peas and carrots, bread and butter. And for some reason, but she's just a real cool lady and had a fantastic run that resonated with me. So I'm talking to Missy Hyatt today, and here's one. She said, hey, Steve, if it's okay, I'm going to make a list of questions to ask you. I said, okay, fine with me. It's my podcast. We can kill two birds with one stone. You can ask me all the questions you want. Well, we started talking, and I was asking her all the questions, and she was giving me all these answers. And by the time we got through talking, she goes, Steve, I still got all these questions I didn't get a chance to ask you. And she held up about 2 or 3 typewritten pages of questions that she wanted to ask me. So I said, well, hell, I said, we'll come back next Thursday and you can ask me those questions. So we're going to flip the script a little bit. It's not going to be so much her interviewing me, but she's going to be asking me questions. I'll have the answers. And hell, I've been hitting the head with so many damn steel chairs, I can't remember shit anyway. Maybe she'll be able to jog my memory or help me answer some of the questions, and it'll still be a back and forth type thing because I got some more stuff that I'd like to ask her. And she's been around the horn a few times and had a great run. and she's coming back next Thursday to ask me questions, but right now, in just a few minutes after I get through running my mouth, you're going to listen to my interview with the one and only Missy Hyatt. Hey, people sent in some questions to the email the other day when I started doing some long interviews with Pat Patterson and Dash and Dawson, those guys that didn't really do opens for the show. And people are still sending me emails. You're not doing opens anymore? Yes, I am. I'll give you an open right now. I'm going to tell you some bullshit stories. When those interviews run long, because I'm out here shooting this show, man, I got little time on my hands to multitask and get everything done with all the time commitments to getting all the shit we need filmed out here filmed. My workouts and all the other obligations I got, sometimes it's hard to come up with an open. But I'll tell you what, man, just a while ago, I was out there walking around, and the Broken Skull Challenge compound, I used to think it was 300 acres. Now I believe it's 180 acres. And there's a lot of junk cars out here, probably a couple of hundred. And I'm a big car fanatic. So I was walking around in the junkyard a while ago after I went to dinner, because I was walking by a car the other day, and I said, man, that's a pretty goddamn cool car. What if I fix that thing up? And what it was, I thought it was a GTO, and it was a ragtop. It was about a 1968 Pontiac Le Mans. And I'm not really a ragtop guy, but this thing looks so cool. Now, it's beat to fuck. All the cars out here are pretty much salvage cars. Maybe they blow them up in movies. I don't know what they do with them, but they're out here. There's a section of Corvettes. There's a section of Pontiacs. There's a section of everything out here. And I'm going to put a picture of this I think it's a 68 Pontiac Le Mans. And I was looking at this thing because the top's down and it's all tattered anyway. I was thinking, man, it would be cool as fuck to get this car running. And I told my wife about that. And she says, Steve, you're not really a ragtop guy. I said, no, I wouldn't drive it on the streets. This would be me and Teddy's hunting buggy at the Broken Skull Ranch. A convertible Pontiac Le Mans ragtop. Just got the window to shoot over. Use it as a rest for your rifle. And just ride around and just drink beer and have a good time. So I'm still on the fence where I'm going to fix this car up or not, or even attempt to buy it from the owner of the movie ranch out here. I don't know if he'll sell the damn thing, but what kind of stupid idea is that? To fix up a Pontiac Le Mans convertible to use as a hunting rig with your buddy. Anyway, that's the way my brain works. Some of my favorites out there, man, here's one. It was an old Pontiac Grand Prix. Jesus Christ, it had to be probably the first year model that the Grand Prix was made. Just by looking at the picture, I'm guessing it's a 65. My brother had a Grand Prix in high school. It wasn't a 65. Now I'm looking on my iPhone at the Corvette section. Here's an old Ford Bronco. Looks to be about a 1988 model. It's a sheriff truck that was used in a movie. It's all striped out. A lot of stuff was used in movies. Here, what looks to be either a 56 or a 58 Cadillac Coupe de Ville. Here's an old AMC Javelin, which somebody rolled obviously pretty badly and don't know how they're feeling. Here's an old Packard. Here is it's a Packard 400. There's so many cars out here. I was thinking this would be a great place to walk around with Chip Foose down there in Huntington Beach when I went down there and saw him. Because Chip Foose, man, right now I'm looking at a 69 Firebird. It's a piece of shit. It's just a shell. The block is still in the car. The 69 Firebird was one of my favorites. I love the Camaro too, but because the Pontiac was different, and not every, you saw a Camaro everywhere, but the Firebird, and especially the 69 Firebird, you just didn't hardly see. Now I'm looking at an Oldsmobile Super 88. I'll put these all on my damn Twitter account. People will think I'm going crazy. If you listen to the show, you'll understand where I'm coming from. Back to Chip Foose. I wonder if I called Chip. Here's a 65 or 64 Chevy short bed pickup, 3-speed on the column. Someone dropped a V8 in it. It was on the road as late as 2015, the license tag says. So to walk around with Chip Foose out here, pick out a car and have Chip trick that thing out. Not trick it out. Just fix it up to road standards and then like murder it out, like matte black finish. I don't think you'd want to take one of these cars that's been sitting out for so long and just, spend too much money on it. Here is an old Toyota Corolla, which someone put a big wing on the back of. It's got blue mag wheels, probably a 76 model. You don't see these things anymore. Anyway, it was a cool car. And I was riding around, and I was on my Kawasaki Mule, and I parked that damn thing, and I just had my headphones in my ears, and I was listening to Eddie Rabbitt. And Eddie Rabbitt, for all you country music fans, you know who Eddie Rabbitt is. If you don't know who Eddie Rabbitt is, man, he was a guy that was basically born in Brooklyn, New York, grew up in Jersey, and he was one of the greatest country music singers of all time. And he died at age 56. If you ain't never heard of Eddie Rabbitt and you're a country music fan, you got to go check out his music. For a little taster, I'm going to play you about 30 seconds of $2 in the Jukebox by Eddie Rabbitt. Eddie Rabbitt was a prolific songwriter who also wrote Pure Love for Ronnie Millsap, and he also sang Kentucky Rain, which the one and only Elvis Presley sang. And it's probably Kentucky Rain that broke his career as one of Nashville's leading songwriters. And then he started singing them, and he could sing awesome. Anyway, Eddie Rabbitt, $2 in the Jukebox. Hit it.
I've got $2 in the jukebox, $5 in a bottle, 10 more just in case that don't do the trick. And I'll be dead broke tomorrow morning, with heartaches by the dozen, and a lady on my mind that's driving me crazy. Why do I
need to see her blue eyes? All right, that's Eddie Rabbitt. I'll tell you what, man, Eddie Rabbitt, so highly underrated and often forgotten because he left so soon. He was one of those guys in the vein of a Keith Whitley. I mean, Keith Whitley was awesome. He left too soon. One of the guys that lasted a long time, and he's still around. A lot of people forgot about Glenn Campbell. Man, Glenn Campbell had a hellacious run and crossed over into the pop section of music. But anyway, hey, man, enough about me rambling about junk cars, my voice, and country music, but that's what I've been up to. Out here filming the toughest show on television, the Broken Skull Challenge. My guest is Missy Hyatt. My voice is back. I'm listening to Eddie Rabbitt. I'm walking around looking at junk cars. I'm having a blast out here, but once I get done here, I'm hauling ass to the Broken Skull Ranch in Texas and doing some bird hunting with Ted Fowler 361. But anyway, before we get going with the one and only Missy Hyatt today, football is back. Tonight, the Denver Broncos and the Carolina Panthers. Denver finally picked a starting quarterback, Trevor Siemian. I know everyone's got an opinion about that decision, but I'll tell you this. If you're looking to bet on that game, I'd probably take the Panthers and Cam Newton. And if you're looking for a place to bet on that game, then get yourself to BetDSI.com. They're one of the original online sports books. Been around for over 20 years. And don't worry about being paid when you win, because BetDSI has built a solid reputation on payment of winnings. They take professional and novice action, and BetDSI.com is really quick and easy to use. It's available on all desktop and mobile platforms, which means you can bet from your home computer, your tablet, or your smartphone. The site is so trusted that many professional players do their betting there. And right now, BetDSI.com is offering this beginning of the season special. Just use my promo code Austin25 when you sign up and get $25 free just to try the service, or take advantage of their 100% bonus on your first deposit. They'll match what you deposit. So go to BetDSI.com and use my promo code Austin25. Austin and the number 25, no space in between. Take advantage of their two great offers and win yourself some money. That's BetDSI.com.
Hey, it's Adam Carolla. That's right, the Podfather. You want to hear me? You want to hear me for free? How about you go to Podcast One? How about you go to the Podcast One app? How about you go to iTunes? How about you hear all the guests, all the people, all the luminaries, and all the amazing thoughts that I have that I will share with you. Thank you in advance. On the Adam Carolla Show. Get it on the Podcast One app or iTunes or at PodcastOne.com.
Steve Austin Unleashed.
All right, I'm sitting here in my trailer at the Broken Skull Challenge compound. I got out here just about an hour ago, settled everything in. I knew I was going to do a podcast with Missy Hyatt, who I was a huge fan of way back in the day. And, of course, I'm still a fan of from my days back when I grew up watching professional wrestling. Although Missy Hyatt and I are only about a year apart in age, she got into business before I did. So, anyway, I'm talking with Missy Hyatt. Missy, how are you? It's good to see you again. It's good to talk to you. I can't remember the last time I saw you in person.
I know. No, it was in New York. I saw you in New York.
When was it?
Yeah, you were doing an autograph show. It was in New York a long time ago, like 2000, I think.
Yeah, well, that's 16 years ago.
Yeah, that's how long it's been.
I've been hitting the head with too many steel chairs, and your opponents have been hitting the head with too many loaded Gucci bags.
Exactly. And just don't remember now in this interview that we're doing that I am the veteran.
Yes, you are. You're going to have to carry me through this thing. Hey, let's go back to you for a second, because I was a major fan of everything that was UWF or Mid-South Power Pro, whatever it was called back then. I know you started in Dallas. You got into business when you were 21. You grew up in Florida, correct?
Yes, I grew up in Tallahassee.
Did you always watch pro wrestling? How did you get turned on to the business?
No, you know what? It wasn't until I was 17 that I was watching Georgia Championship Wrestling. Well, my dad was, and he was flipping channels, and the Freebirds were on. And I was like, what are you watching, Daddy? He's like, oh, I'm watching wrestling. And I was like, oh, my gosh, what are they doing? And I'll never forget, because they did something, an angle with Terry Bam Bam Gordy, and they put a baby bonnet on his head and a baby pacifier
I remember that.
in his mouth. And he was running around and squealing. And I thought it was the biggest hoot in the world. And I was like, oh, my gosh, that's what I want to do. I want to do that. I want to be involved in that, and then I started watching it and just became a fan, and it was like, that was it. I got the bug bit me, the Freebirds bit me.
Okay, so you were down in Florida, so how did you end up getting into business? Because your first stop was in World Class, correct?
Right. Well, I moved to Atlanta, and I met John Tatum.
Okay. I
had dated Jake Roberts previously to that, but I had met Johnny, and then Johnny went to work for Jim Crockett for a little while, and he worked there, and then after Jim Crockett, he went to work for World Class, and I went with him when he moved to Dallas.
Hey, that's a blast from the past when you bring up John Tatum's name, because, man, I used to, when I was playing football at North Texas State University, and John came through the territory, and, he was a hot heel. He was a good worker, good-looking guy.
Yeah.
And he had a ton of heat on him. Of course, I hated his guts. And but I just remember him from the Dallas days.
Facial expressions.
Absolutely, he did.
He was so good at the facial expressions. He was like big crybaby, and he was so great.
So what did he go to? Who was booking at the time? Was it Fritz?
No, as a matter of fact, it was David Manning and Ken Mantell.
So how did they pitch you? Say, hey, this.
Well, you know what? I was just there. I mean, and they saw me backstage, and David Manning was like, hey, we need a valet to go up. Sunshine's a baby face, and she doesn't have a heel, so we need a heel to go up against her. Do you want to be a manager? And I was like, yeah, sure. I'll do that. What do I got to do? And they just go out and hit Sunshine with a purse and do it like that. And I was just like, okay, I'll do it. I'd signed up to go to college, and I up there in Denton, and I never made it to college. Never made it.
So tell me about your introduction into the business, because you start watching in Florida at 17, and all of a sudden you're in the business, that you decided that that's what you wanted to do. Now, Sunshine was there. You were going to go on in a year or two and start feuding your very famous feud with Dark Journey. But, man, other than, the women wrestlers from back in the day who paved the way and to the women's scene that's going on now, it was such a male-dominated industry back then, and now here you are, totally, green as grass. So what was the attitude towards you from the boys?
From the boys, they were really nice to me. I mean, I used to go in, there was no two dressing rooms. There was always, the heel dressing room and the face dressing room. But Johnny would take a chair and I'd put it in the corner and I'd face the corner and read a book, because I thought it was really disrespectful to be in the dressing room and seeing guys changing and farting and doing whatever they do,
Locker room stuff.
Yeah, locker room stuff. And so I used to just sit there and do it. But I remember the first few times that I would come in, they'd go, kayfabe, and I'm like, my name's not Kay, it's Missy,
Well, they're trying to kayfabe you just because you were so green, and maybe they didn't know how long you would last, and so they didn't want to smarten you up to all the trade secrets of the day.
Exactly. And I'll never forget John Tatum and Johnny and Michael Hayes were trying to teach me carnage going down the road at WWF, trying to teach me. And I still haven't ever mastered it either. And it's like, I talk it too slow or something, or I don't know. I can understand a little bit of it, but talking it.
I was never a guy who really gravitated towards the whole use the kayfabe language thing. Now, yeah, I could say the arbitrary word here or there, but it's not something I thrived on. But that being said, it's like, now that I've been so far removed from the business, I retired in 2003, and I kind of still, my inner circle of friends, they know my lingo, and I don't talk in carny, but I'll say kayfabe. They know what kayfabe means. They know what shoot means. If I say no, like politically, if I'm watching something, man, that's a work. Do you still use those words today in your life?
Words. My best friend, she never really watched wrestling at all, and we go to reenact. I do World War II and Civil War reenacting. I'm a living historian, and we'll go and she'll see somebody dressed in something that's not correct, and she's like, "Oh, kayfabe," like that to me. And I have to laugh sometimes, or she'll say something, and I'll say, "Oh, that was a shoot," and she was like, "Yeah, that was a shoot," But she says it never correctly, but she gets the kayfabe down right, or she'll be like, kayfabe those shoes, like that.
Oh, Jesus. Hey, let's talk a quick second about your feud with Sunshine and World Class Championship Wrestling, because she was really over. And she had been in the business quite some time before you, and of course that territory had been on fire. So what was her attitude towards you? Obviously she needs an adversary. You're the perfect foil. But how did y'all get along? And did she help smarten you up as far as the work aspect of it? How to do this, how to do that? Like, for instance, grabbing your head, and seemingly pulling every hair out, but holding on your hands.
Yes, she baby steps with me. She came in there and worked with me and taught with me, and I'll never forget one of the first nights we ever had to roll around together. I laughed because I was having a good time, because to me, I was getting paid to do something I would have done for free, I mean, I was just having a good time. And we got back in the locker room, and I'll never forget, she comes in that locker room and she's like, "Don't you ever laugh out there." I mean, our hair was in our face and everything, so one could see it. But she was like, I was like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I will never do that again. But if it wasn't for Sunshine being such a wonderful person and really helping me and teaching me, I would have never been able to take the abuse that I took in the UWF.
How long did it take you to come to understand just the aspect of heat, how to get heat, how to maintain heat, and what it was? Because that Dallas territory thrived on hot heels, especially you, and of course she was over as a babyface. Tell me about your understanding of how the business worked.
Well, I mean, I started because of Jake. Like, Jake really taught me, because we would sit up all night playing cards and watch wrestling and talk. And so I kind of understood the business and I had an understanding of the business, but it wasn't until I actually worked that I got an understanding of it. But I thought the main thing was the crowd. It was like, it was so easy. The crowd was so easy to turn and to do. If you did anything, you would just automatically get heat. And anything that I did, I would get heat for it. And it was just, to me, it was simple.
Also, when I kind of watch back, because I hearken upon those old days when not all the exposés had been done. So many people saw through it right from the get-go, because a lot of people, like, even, in the earlier days, in the 40s, 50s, or whatever, people Yeah, it was always on the take. I bought in. When I was a kid growing up 7, 8 years old, I thought it was real. Now, when I was in college and I was driving down to the Sportatorium, I knew something was up, but I still wasn't sure. So when you started, I mean, it's still quote-unquote real. And when you're a good-looking blonde and you're doing dastardly things, I mean, the heat getting processed, I would dare say it was a little bit easier back then because people weren't in the know, and all of a sudden, pardon my language, but you have this good-looking blonde bitch out there who's doing distracting and doing dashing, just hate. You know what I'm saying?
And being very annoying. And
being very annoying, condescending.
Yeah, and very. I mean, like I'll never forget. Like they had me do the interviews because they said Johnny talked like he was drunk. Like, I don't know why. He wasn't ever drunk.
Yeah.
But they said, okay, Missy, you do the interviews. So I had to start doing the interviews. And they just said whine and complain. And I mean, and I can whine and complain. I've been whining and complaining, since I was young. So that was really simple for me to do that. But I was told one time by Kim Mantell told me that Sunshine, if she's told to haul ass, she has to take 2 trips. And I went out and said it verbatim, haul ass. And I came back and he had a look on his face like, you said ass. And this was when we were on the Saturday night show, which was Christian station. And he was like so scared they were going to have to bleep that out or do something. I'm like, but you told me to say ass. I didn't understand, like I did what you told me to do.
That was ahead of its time. Okay, need to give quick word of thanks to all the sponsors of the Steve Austin Show and you guys for supporting all the sponsors. And that, of course, includes the one that can win you some serious instant cash, DraftKings.com. Pro football officially starts tonight in Denver with the Broncos versus the Panthers. And, man, there have already been a couple of heartbreaking injuries in the pros. Tony Romo out for 6 to 10 weeks with a back injury, and Teddy Bridgewater out for the whole season thanks to a torn ACL. And if that just wiped out your season-long fantasy team, you can still win some money playing one-week fantasy at DraftKings.com. And if you use my promo code UNLEASHED, you can play for free with your first deposit. At DraftKings, you don't have to worry about injuries. You don't have to make a season-long commitment to a player. You can play wherever and whenever you want with a new lineup every time. And DraftKings has something for everyone. They got contests specifically for beginners. They got 50-50 contests where the top half of all entries win cash. And in this week one contest, they're giving away $100,000 in cash prizes. So hurry to DraftKings.com to choose your players, and you can win some serious cash in week one. Use my promo code UNLEASHED and play for free with your first deposit. That's promo code UNLEASHED to play for free at DraftKings.com. That's DraftKings.com. Eligibility restrictions may apply. See website for details. Here's a question for you.
Okay.
You came in as your real name is Melissa Hyatt, so your nickname has probably always been Missy, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so when I tell people, and from back in the day I was Steve Williams and turned into Steve Austin, Stone Cold, but finally when I was able to dial in the character of Stone Cold after being the Stunning Steve, the Ringmaster and all that, really Stone Cold was me turned up to an 11. Would you say the same thing about Missy? Your character, Missy Hyatt?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But were you a whiner and complainer growing up? Because if you're coming from Florida, I just picture you as being like a pretty tough chick, like, maybe. Or were you a powder puff? I mean, what?
Yeah, I was a powder puff. I mean, my dad, I wrecked a lot of cars. My dad bought me a lot of cars. I was spoiled kind of growing up, so I guess I was a whiner.
Were you a wild child coming up through junior high school?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I was the geek though in school. Like, I didn't have cool clothes. I was more of a geek in school. But I mean, I did wild things. Like I had a fake ID and would go to bars and go out and have, fun times.
But what kind of grades did you make? Because you've always been very intelligent.
Well, I made C's. I made C's and B's probably. I just skated through. It wasn't until later on when I went to college that I really put myself into the zone, because I wasn't prepared to go to college when I was like 17 or 18 when I graduated high school. I was ready. I wanted to get into wrestling. I didn't want to go to college.
Well, at what point in time did you decide, hey, man, this has all been fine and dandy, but I need to get my ass in college and decide to go?
No, what it was when I moved to New York. I moved to New York, and that's when I decided to go to college. Because I always wanted to go to college, and I always wanted to have a degree. And it wasn't until I moved to New York City that I was like, hey, I'm going to go to college while I'm here.
What year was that?
I graduated in 2001.
So what did you end up getting a degree in?
Psychology.
Why did you pick psychology? I mean, because there's so much psychology. I mean, the business is based on psychology.
I know, exactly. I don't know. I think I started out as biology, and I couldn't hack it in biology. And I really like the psych courses, and I really like I like forensic psychology, and I love like investigation discovery and like serial killers and stuff like that.
Let's talk about the serial killers there, because there's some common ground there. Because when I was in WWE, I was the ringmaster, and I was drinking a beer, watching a special on serial killer Richard Kuklinski, the Iceman.
Yes.
And I'm not endorsing anything he did, but he's a very evil guy. But I said, hey, man, that's very interesting what that guy has done. He's just a cold-blooded, ruthless son of a bitch and just doesn't give a damn. And I pitched that idea to the WWE. And anyway, that's how I became Stone Cold Steve Austin. And of course, I've read, the Henry Lee Lucas books. All that stuff has been somewhat. I remember going to Jeffrey Dahmer's apartment in Milwaukee way back in the day when we were traveling through.
Me and Jesse Ventura, we were there doing a pay-per-view, and we made the car driver take us by the apartment complex of Jeffrey Dahmer's. And Jesse got out, and we were looking in the dumpsters, and we're like, there's nothing going to be in there. But, we looked, but we went by his apartment, too.
So what enticed you, or what interested you? I don't want to use the right. I want to make sure I use the right word, or don't want to use the wrong word. What we're just talking about. That just to me, people like that are so fucked up. It's very interesting to understand, and so many of them have no remorse or just detached. I just don't get it.
It's like some of the people that I work with now is like, they're happy that they have food and stay in the shelter and, get their food stamps. They have their Obama phone, and they just have no sense of doing anything else, no sense of improving themselves or doing anything. They just going through life, just breathing. And I'm just, and you try to help them, and they don't, there's no helping.
I want to go back to psychology, but I want to now go to Mid-South Power Pro UWF. What did you call it when you worked for Bill Watts? What was the name of the promotion back then? Because it changed.
Oh, it was just UWF.
Okay, and it's when he was trying to make the next step to the big level.
Yeah, he was trying to be the next. Well, that's what happens when we raided. Ken Mantell took everybody from World Class and went over to UWF. And that's when he was trying to be up against Crockett. So
when you say we raided, was when you were already with Bill Watts?
Well, no, when we were all with World Class and everybody left World Class and went to UWF. Ken Mantell took everybody, the Freebirds and everybody, and me and Johnny and Jack Victory, and took everyone.
Well, that's a hell of a damn thing there. What was the strategy there? Was just because was it Fritz that was running the territory, or was the majority owner still alive? What was his name? I'm hitting myself in the head. Anyway, why did everybody make the exodus to UWF?
I don't know. You know what? I really don't know. And I've had this talk with a friend of mine. And I said, if I would have known that us leaving would have killed the territory, I would have stayed, because Fritz treated me so well and gave me my start. And they just, I loved working there. And it was so easy, Friday night Sportatorium, Monday night Fort Worth, and close shows. We weren't on the road like we were in the UWF, and we didn't have to put up with bull like we had to put up in the UWF. And but he's like, no, but the territory it died after that. I have a question for you about that, because
Okay, but let's put a break on the UWF. I got to go back to the Sportatorium because you were there with so many battles. When I think of that place, it smelled like piss, beer, hot dogs, popcorn.
I was gonna ask you,
yeah.
How did it feel? How did it feel being there, going there as a fan, and then going there, working there? You know, watching it as a fan in its heyday, when there's all those people there, and then going to work there and there's only 200 people there. How did it feel? That's
a great question because, you know, when I was playing football at North Texas State, and that was 86, 87, so world class was running pretty strong then still. It was starting to fume out. It was going to fume out in 89. So it was still pretty hot and heavy, and we would go down on the Friday nights, me and my buddies from college, we'd drink beer, get drunk, and throw shit at the wrestlers. You know, that's what you did back then, right? And so, you know, a couple of years later, when I'm breaking in, and I'm taking the school there on the Saturday mornings after the TV taping. There I am in that building, and I couldn't believe it. I was like a kid in a candy store. And then finally, you know, I started working. And when I first started working, you know, I was just a young, good-looking baby face with long blonde hair. And P.Y. Chew High and all the hottie heels from Tennessee would come in and beat the shit out of me, try to get some heat on them. And I was a nobody, so I was just paying my dues. But then to finally start working out there, it was so fun back then with that little string that ran down to the entranceway. And you know, the Von Erichs, those Von Erich boys, when you used to watch them on TV, and you can vouch for this because I don't think a lot of people understand how over those Von Erich boys were. They would get mugged. Girls would be hugging them, kissing them. They'd have about 4, 5, or 6 phone numbers written on paper in their trunks or in their hands. It was mayhem. And so, you know, I went down there. You know, nobody gave a shit about me because I wasn't anybody. But it was awesome. Hey, what kind of man was Fritz to you? I never really got a chance to meet him.
You never got oh, he was wonderful to me. I'll never forget going up in his office when they wanted to hire me, and it was Fritz and Carrie and Kevin sitting in there. And they're like, okay, so we're going to hire you. What name are we going to use? You know, and we were trying to figure out a name. And Johnny called me Missy, and they're like, well, let's just use your name, you know, like that. And Fritz always paid. He paid really well. I mean, I never ever looked at my check and went, oh, I shouldn't have gotten paid that. Like we got paid really well. He paid us well. He was always, if he said something, he did it. He was an honest guy. He was a wonderful man.
What was your take on the locker room there? Because I've heard tales from back in the day that was a pretty hairy locker room, just as far as just blow. I mean, some of the guys smoking pot. And this isn't one of those we're trying to bury everybody, but I heard it was a pretty wild dressing room by all accounts.
It was pretty wild. Like Gino Hernandez was there, and Gino, you know, would come in there with his Louis Vuitton, you know, and dressed up, looking, you know, sharp dressed man, and then you'd have Carrie come in, which would be funny, and he'd walk around, he'd shake everybody's hand, and about 15 minutes later, he'd go and do it again and shake everybody's hand.
Okay, I got to ask you a question. Was that a rib or was that a shoot? Because
I think it was a shoot.
Okay, I think it was too, because when I first came in, you know, when you first come in that front Sportatorium door, if you hang an immediate right, that's a janitor's closet. And when I first started doing the commercials for Chris Adams Wrestling School, they made me dress in there. And then finally, when after a couple of months, they let me dress, you know, in the dressing room to the left, where all the boys dressed, you know, because I wasn't kayfabed anymore. And I walked in there, and Kevin said, hey, man, how you doing? Kevin Von Erich. And I said, I'm doing good. And then a couple of minutes later goes, hey, man, how are you? He said, man, it's been a while. I haven't seen you in a long time. Man, we used to have some good matches together. And I said, Kevin, I just met you for the first time a while ago. I said, I'm just now starting. And he goes, oh, I'm sorry. And I thought it was ribbing me, but I think it was a shoot.
Yeah, I think it was.
Hey, how were the, here's the thing, I was going to work with Carrie one night because a lot of the top talent wasn't there. I'd only been in the territory or in the business less than 6 months, and I'm working on top in some of these little Dallas spot shows with either Kevin or Carrie. And of course, you know, it was literally a 5-minute match, literally. And it'd be something where I'd shine them with one high spot or they'd beat the shit out of me, and then all of a sudden I would be in an iron claw. You know, and I'd be out. But one time,
Iron Claw. I'm really upset because I always wanted to get the Iron Claw. I got spanked by Kevin Von Erich one time, but I always wanted to get the Iron Claw, and I never got the Iron Claw, and you got the Iron Claw.
One time I was going to, I think we were working Cleburne. It was just a little spot show outside of Dallas, and I pulled into a gas station, and I kind of looked over. I did a double take with, here's this guy with this awesome physique, and it was Kerry, and he was wearing his boots and his ring gear, and that's before he lost his foot. And he was out there gassing up his car in just his trunks and his wrestling boots. And I'm thinking, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? You talk about living a gimmick.
Oh, yeah. I can imagine. That's a good story, though.
Why do you think... what do you think happened to those guys? I never thought in a million years that Kevin would be the last one left.
I know. I don't know if it was after David died, trying to live up to a standard that they couldn't live up to. You know how they always talk about the Kennedy curse, and the Von Erich curse. I don't know if it's something that they were always trying to live up to David's standards. Because David was like the heir apparent, was going to take over everything. And that's what I think. I mean, I don't know for sure, but I think that's what it was.
From a work standpoint, everybody considered him world champion material, and I always thought Kerry had that look, and of course Kevin did too. They're almost neck and neck, but Kerry probably a little bit higher. Just his charisma, his look.
His charisma. He was a superstar. I mean, he looked like a superstar. If you would see him not in wrestling boots and not in wrestling gear, walking down, in an airport or somewhere, you would look at him and say, he's a superstar.
He's like somebody. You might not know who he is, but he's got to be famous.
Yeah, he's got to be famous. He's a superstar because he just had that look to him.
So if you were going to use your, psychology or your psychiatry, what went on there? Just trying to live up to David? Or what was Fritz too giving, as a father? Because they had everything they wanted. Maybe
he just gave them everything they wanted. And they didn't, and then they just couldn't live up to the high standards of what David was.
But
they were everything.
They all treated me like gold. And of course, I remember when God rest his soul, Percy Pringle, and I did a little feud with Chris, and we beat the hell out of him. He got some color, we tied him up, and he was always he was just kind of the runt of the family, and he had such a tough road to go. And then he took him. It was just tragic. And then with Kerry, I guess got caught forging prescriptions, and then he decided to end it. I mean, it was heartbreaking because literally, I remember being at North Texas State. I remember when David died, but I think I remember when Gino died. I was riding in my 76 Monte Carlo, and I heard that Gino had died, and I was like, man, that's fucked up. How'd he die?
Yeah.
Did you think that there was some shady circumstances there? Because I've heard a million stories.
Yeah, I thought there were some shady circumstances too, but you know what? I don't think it was. I think it was just the accidental OD. Do you know, this is a good one for you. They were going to put me with Gino. They were going to do a split with me and John and put me with Gino. And then Gino died. And I'm like, great. Gino died.
What did you think? Did that blow your mind? And you knew that he was a party guy, to say the least.
Yeah.
So what were your thoughts when you heard that news and knowing that you were going to be put with him as a pair?
Yeah, we thought it was going to be great. We thought we were going to be like elevated up high because Gino just lost his hair with Chris and everything, and they were trying to think of something to do with them, and they were going to split them apart, and then they wanted to do something with Gino, and then Johnny and I were thinking we're going to get a run with Gino. That's like we're going to be up there. Main event.
What do you think if Gino would have, if let's say he never would have died, if he would have went up to New York, he would have had a monster run.
Oh, yeah.
Good-looking guy. He could work. One of those natural heat-getting magnet kind of guys.
Yes, he would have had a hell of a run up there. Just his whole persona, because he was Gino.
Yeah.
In and out of the ring. He really was. He was so much Gino.
Hey, man, let me take a minute here to thank another sponsor of this podcast, Diamond Dallas Page and DDP Yoga. Y'all know that DDP Yoga has changed thousands of lives, including the lives of some of your favorite pro wrestlers, Jake the Snake, Scott Hall, Mick Foley, AJ Styles, and Chris Jericho. And now DDP has taken his life-changing program to a whole nother level with the DDP Yoga Now app, which you can get for both iOS and Android devices. And that means you can do DDP Yoga anytime, anywhere. So now there's no excuse not to get on the DDP Yoga program. And the app has a lot more than just the workouts on it. By connecting to a Bluetooth heart rate monitor, you can track your calories and heart rate in real time. You can track your pain, measurements, and progress photos too, all for free in the app. Like I said, you've also got tons of workouts to choose from. The original DDP Yoga workouts, the new 2.0 workouts, and weekly live workouts from the DDP Yoga Performance Center. And to make it even easier than he's already made it, for a limited time, you can get the DDP Yoga DVDs for 20% off, plus 3 months of full access to the DDP Yoga Now app. Just go to ddpyoga.com/Austin. That's ddpyoga.com/Austin. Take advantage of this great deal. Commit now. Change your life now. Go to ddpyoga.com/Austin to get started. Hey, let's go to UWF. I got to ask you about working for Bill Watts.
Okay.
How was going from working with for Fritz von Erich in that Dallas area where everybody was kind of taking care of you and, you know, sharing knowledge with you and bringing you up because you're green.
They would give you, like, your booking sheet and your check, and then they'd give you directions, you know, with your booking sheet. I mean, everything. It was just, they took good care of you there. And then to go to UWF, and it was just kind of like find your own way.
Well, to go back to the Dallas thing, because, you know, I was coming in '89, and that part of the organization that you know was still there, and there you get a booking sheet, but it was like an 8x10, you know, office. I mean, like an office paper, and
Right.
It'd be a little grid. It was like a weekly grid. I don't even know if it was monthly, and because I didn't know, and it had the list of towns, and they said if you were on the card or not, and you're like, oh, well, wow, I'm not on that card. I wonder what's wrong. And so here's a question for I'll only ask you one money question.
Okay.
When I broke in Dallas, Texas, my first match was with Frogman LeBlanc. It was in the Sportatorium. It was a television match, and I had no business being on TV because I was greener than shit. And so I wrestled Frogman LeBlanc, and I beat him with the flying clothesline. And when I went to Chris's office, that one upstairs, and Chris had trained me, of course, so, you know, I was representing the school. And all of a sudden, here comes Frogman. It's me, him, and Chris, and they're talking. He goes, I think you'll win with like a flying clothesline. That's my shitty English impression because I got my throat is killing me right now because I can't talk. So anyway, I got there, and I won the match with the flying clothesline. Tony Falk was the referee. God bless him. He was trying to call spots for me because we were shitting the bed out there. My point is, for that match, I made $40. So I finally got my check I got my check like 1 or 2 weeks later, and I'm like, man, $40, that ain't very much money for being on TV. And then I talked to Jarrett when he bought the territory from Fritz von Erich, and it became a USWA almost immediately, if it wasn't already
You
USWA.
was only paying the guys, what, $50 or $75?
No, not me. I was making $15 and $20 a night, and you know that territory over there. There's not a round trip that's under 260 miles.
Exactly.
Memphis to Nashville is 400 miles round trip. So I was making $15 to $20 a night. So when you first started off in the business, just a house show, what were you making?
My first check. I still have my first check. It was $50.
$50 for a shot or a week?
For one shot. My first time when I came out to hit Sunshine with the purse, it was $50. But I was making, in world class, probably between like $100 and $175 a night.
That's damn good money back in the day.
Yeah, and that was great money for 1985. Plus,
Absolutely.
Johnny was making money. You know, Johnny was making more than me, so we thought we were, you know, great. And then when I went to UWF, then we got the contract. I got my first contract, and that was for $50,000 a year. Are
you kidding me?
Yeah, when I went to UWF.
Jesus Christ, that's awesome money for...
Yeah, that was great. But then Bill Watts would, if you did anything, he would take fine you and take it out of you, and you would never before we got the contract. It seems like we were making more money because he was paying us on the house, and like one of the houses were up, and me and Dark Journey, and I ended up getting like a $400 paycheck for like Jackson, Mississippi, and then once I signed the contract to make the $50,000, then it was like $187.50 a night. Like he broke it down, and it was like, and you never would make over that.
That wily veteran.
Yes.
Because here's the thing. Here's what I'm thinking. Okay, hey, I can either pay you like we're paying you now, or I can guarantee you $50,000 a year, and you'll sign a contract. Is that what he said?
Yeah.
So it sounds good when all of a sudden you hear the lump sum, and this is 85, 50 G's.
This was 86. This was
86. But in that zone, all I'm saying is you get that guaranteed money, and you're a wrestler or a valet or a personality, and you're making 50 G's. That's a shit pile of money.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was great. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I bought my first car without my daddy's help. Co-signing for me, because I walked in there with the money and bought me my 300ZX Turbo, and thought I was the hot thing, going around.
Hey, talk to me about the traveling down there in the UWF, because the Mid-South, I was referred to as Mid-South, but that was a territory known for a shit pile of wheel time.
Yeah, I think whoever booked the towns would sit there with a big map and just throw darts and say, okay, they're going to be in Jackson one night, then they're going to be in Houston, then they'll be in Tulsa, then we'll have them go down to Baton Rouge, and then to Dallas. I mean, it was long trips.
So were you traveling at that time with Eddie?
Well, no, I was traveling with Johnny at first.
Okay.
Me and Johnny were together, and we used to travel with One Man Gang, as a matter of fact, because he had a van. And I loved traveling because his wife would cook sandwiches, is what he called them, sandwiches for us. And we used to ride with One Man Gang a lot of the time. And that was great. That was some fun times. And but yeah, we used to have to travel. I mean, we'd fly a little bit. Like he would give you a voucher or $180 to fly to get to Tulsa for the TV taping every 2 weeks, where out of Baton Rouge or wherever, and you could do that, or you just take the money and drive it.
So what did you think about life on the road? Because you're talking 86, right?
Yeah, 86, 87.
86, 87. You've been a year and a half, 2 years in the business. And, well, Jesus Christ, here's the thing. You started when you're 21, so now you're 23.
Yeah.
And you're still a pup. So this has got to be just like all fun and games.
Yeah, to me it was all fun and games until Dark Journey kicked my ass every night.
Now, how did Dark Journey get introduced back in the day? Because as I was a fan of the feud, I forgot her introduction and her liaison or her relationship with Dickie Slater.
Yeah, she had a relationship with Dickie Slater, and Dickie brought her in, and then she ended up staying, and Dickie left. And so then they had her manage Missing Link.
Yeah.
The Missing Link,
that's right.
Yeah, to go up against me.
Okay, now, as you were feuding with Sunshine, she was taking you under her wing. Y'all had great chemistry, and now you go into UWF, and it's Dark Journey, and she's a pretty tough lady.
Oh, my God. Let me tell you, she beat my ass every single night. I would go out because I could never, because I was always told, don't ever cry in the dressing room. Don't ever let them see you cry. So
Who told you that?
Johnny.
Okay.
Johnny and Michael Hayes. Because Michael Hayes, we used to travel with Michael a lot.
Good 411.
So, yeah. So they told me never let them see you cry, and I used to go out and just cry. Go get in the car and just cry because my knees hurt. I mean, she broke my thumb. She busted my nose. I mean, she would hear the crowd screaming, because it had so much heat and screaming, and she would just pound the living crap out of me. And I'll never forget Carl Fergie was laughing because my hair's going all, because I had a bald spot in the back of my head from her pulling my hair out and everything. And the boys used to come out to watch us because they the bitches are going to fight. You're going to watch because they're going to fight, And I tried so many times going over to Jake's dad,
Grizzly.
Yeah, Grizzly's house, and trying to show her, look, when you grab me by my hair, I'm gonna grab your wrists. Now let me show you what to do. And it didn't matter. And we would do and back then, because the TV taping was every 2 weeks, we would do the same match in the towns around.
Yeah.
And so we'd have the same finish and the same match. We'd have one thing okay, I pull a leg, she chases me around 2 ring posts, I roll in, she rolls in, she doesn't get a hold of me, she almost gets me, and I roll out. Every night she screwed it up. I wouldn't pull a leg, she'd just start chasing me out of nowhere. Or either I'd pull the leg, she wouldn't chase me. Or either I'd roll in, she'd roll in and beat my ass. And then John would have to pull me out. I mean, it was like, I don't understand this girl. What does she not get? Because, I mean, they used to come to me and they would just say, okay, this is what you're going to do, blah, 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 blah. And they'd walk away. And then you'd have to know. I mean, you couldn't just go out there, you'd have to know what your finish and know what the finish is.
Damn right. And you couldn't have your head in your ass because all of a sudden something's going to happen. If you miss your cue,
exactly.
You're fucked.
You got to know what the finish is, and you got to know when to go on cue, when to do stuff, And this is back in the UWF now, the heels and faces were in separate dressing rooms. And so you had the referees running back and forth talking, and they used to talk in the ring. And, you were told, Ken would come to you and give you a finish, and that's it. I mean, he'd give you the finish and walk out of the room, and you'd have to have that. You'd have to know what you're doing when you go out there. And I don't understand that girl. She just would screw it up almost every night, and it was just like she beat me.
But how was that? I want to get back to Dark Journey. How was that, when you're green as grass, or when you came in Dallas, there's kind of a common area, but like you said, in UWF, just like Nashville Fairgrounds, babyface heels, totally different sides of the building. You cannot talk. It's referee. You say, hey, he's going to catch this on you, and go about 8 or 10 minutes or whatever. So they're relaying the finish to you, and all of a sudden, if you don't have a good set of ears or some wherewithal to process information, you're gonna fuck this thing up. And you're talking about big money riding on a hot angle, which is putting asses in the seats. And all of a sudden, whether you work for Bill Watts, Fritz Von Erich, you're working for a promoter who expects you to be professional enough, knowledgeable enough to carry out the angle at hand.
Oh yeah, definitely. And many a times Bill Watts would come in and scream. And we'd sit there like little kids like this, with our heads down, because we're like, he's screaming, and it's just like, and we all got it. And
here's the thing, Bill Watts was an intimidating man. He's a big guy. He was the boss. He was super smart. He had eyes behind his head. And so, all of a sudden he's talking to you. It's like this voice of God with this attitude behind it. So was Dark Journey, when you tied up, was she shooting, or was she just snug as fuck?
No, she was shooting on me.
So did you never could smarten her up? Say, hey.
I never could smarten her up. And then Eddie tried to teach me how to get a sugar hold on her, and she was just and I could never get one on her. And I tried so many times. And
stop. Well, explain to my audience what a sugar hold is, because I know, but I'm laughing because I don't picture you with a sugar hold.
Okay, well, a sugar hold is just when you get someone where they can't move.
Yeah, it's a front face lock. And
you get them and you get their head on the mat, so they're face first down on the mat.
You can control the person. That's what a sugar hold is. Long story short, I don't want to go to an MMA thesis or branch out, but a sugar hold in wrestling was quite simply a hold where you just settle the motherfucker down. If they're working too rough with you, come to Jesus. Hey, slow down.
Slow down. And
but you never could get her in it.
I could never get it on her. I tried it. I'm too much of a girly girl. I could never get it on her.
Hey, you stay in UWF. Jim Ross was the color commentator or the main announcer.
Yes.
And Jim was one of my favorite announcers of all time. I think as much as, and you grew up down in Florida, so, Gordon Soley is God. But,
Yes.
man, Jim Ross, man, when he was the voice down there for Watts and when he went to Crockett's, went to WCW and then WWF, I just thought he was the greatest of all time. Did he ever help you or drop any knowledge on you? Because he was a wealth of information because he'd been in the business for so damn long.
Not in UWF. It wasn't until I got to WCW that he really helped me out. When I used to work with him hosting the shows, that's when he really helped me out. But in UWF, he hardly never really spoke to me that much. Because I couldn't see him that much.
How different was the locker room in UWF than a world-class championship wrestling? Because y'all had really a who's who of people that were there, legitimate tough guys, whatever Hall of Fame you'd put them in, because there's so many, and maybe whatever future Hall of Famers with the Steiners, Sting, Warrior, Murdoch, Dickie, Slater, everybody that was there was damn near a Hall of Famer.
Right. Oh yeah.
So what was the attitude? What was the difference between UWF and Dallas?
Well, to me, it was just more people. To me, I mean, it was the same, but it was just more people, and it was like we were up a little bit level. Like we were in world class, we were down here, but we moved up a level, moved up a notch.
Was that the perception that UWF was an upgrade from world class?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we felt like. Because going out there in front of the Tulsa Civic Center that was sold out every 2 weeks and going to Jackson, the houses were just so much bigger, and it was just like, it was, and being in the Super Bowl and places like that, New Orleans. It was just a lot more people came. So it just seemed more like we were a step up.
What were your thoughts when, Jesus Christ, was the Blade Runners? Were they the Blade Runners there?
No, they weren't the Blade Runners there. They were the Blade Runners, I guess, maybe before I got there.
Were they?
Sting was already Sting, and the other Blade Runner wasn't there when I got there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so did at this point, not to go over your chronology of dating, but is Eddie Gilbert in the territory at this time?
Yes.
Okay, now did Bill entrust him with the booking?
No, but him and Hill was doing the booking, and Eddie would help out. Eddie would do his stuff, and help out. It wasn't until the end, before he sold to Crockett, that Eddie was doing the booking.
So then Eddie was booking for Crockett?
No, Eddie was booking for Bill Watts.
After he sold to Crockett?
Right before he sold to Crockett.
Okay.
Yeah, right before.
Sorry to get my timeline. What were your thoughts on Eddie Gilbert's take on the business? Because he was considered by many to be a really smart guy.
He was a really smart guy, and he loved the business, and he had been booking since he was a kid. His mom has notebooks of him writing out storylines and writing out who versus who, and we're talking at a young age too. Growing up watching that Memphis wrestling, and he would take the Memphis show and then he'd rewrite it how he saw it and his characters and everything. So he was really smart. He was really smart. It's a shame that he's not around.
I know.
There's so many of us. It's a shame.
What do you think the highlight of your stay in UWF was?
Oh my gosh, my highlight of my stay. Okay, this when once a year they have the Tulsa fair, and so we wrestled at the Tulsa fair. They put me in a dunking machine. And I got to be rude to people and have them dunk me.
So you just insult people to get them to pay their $5 to throw 3 gimmicks at you and put you in the water.
They dunked me, and I was in it, and I was wearing a nice dress and everything, and I got dunked a bunch of times. And I had the best time doing that because what can they do? I'm behind the screen thing. I'm calling them jabronis. They don't even know what it is. That was probably one of the highlights.
I didn't think that you getting dunked at a state fair in Tulsa would be the highlight of your stay at UWF, but it's a great story.
Yeah.
Okay, y'all know the only reason I'm able to do this podcast twice a week for free is because of all the great sponsors and the fact that y'all support my sponsors, and that includes Onnit. You know I don't podcast without Onnit and Alpha Brain. It's the first thing I do. Take a couple of Alpha Brain, a couple swigs of coffee. Then I fire up the Zoom H4 recorder or Skype and get rolling. And y'all know what Alpha Brain does for me. It keeps me razor sharp and laser focused. Helps my memory, too, and I need all the help I can get. And if you could use a little extra brain power yourself, then go to onnit.com/Steve to get some Alpha Brain for yourself and save 10% off your order in the process. You can save 10% off anything you order at onnit.com/Steve. So, yes, you can get 10% off Shroom Tech Sport. Shroom Tech Sport will give your workout a boost. It will help you go longer and recover faster. And, yes, you can get 10% off T+. T+ increases strength and power. It will improve your athletic performance, and it's safe to use if you're competing. So go take advantage of this 10% discount off your order. Just go to onnit.com/Steve. And another great thing about Onnit and all their products is if they don't work the way they're supposed to, you can get all your money back, no questions asked. Money back guarantee. So go to onnit.com/Steve to get your 10% discount off all your supplements. That's onnit.com/Steve to get 10% off your order. If you're looking to buy a new or used car, then you need to check out TrueCar.com and the TrueCar app. I bet you didn't know you can use TrueCar to help you buy a used car, too. It ain't just for new car purchases. There are over 500,000 pre-owned vehicles available from TrueCar certified dealers nationwide. And there are over 11,000 TrueCar certified dealers. And TrueCar lets you get upfront pricing information on new and used vehicles and lets you see what other people paid for the car you want so that you feel confident you're getting a fair price. With TrueCar, via their TrueCar pricing curve, you see what other people paid for the car and you lock in your guaranteed savings. Then you can connect with a local certified dealer of your choosing, take them your TrueCar guaranteed savings certificate, and make your car buying experience quick and easy. Over 2 million cars have been sold to TrueCar users by the TrueCar Certified Dealer Network, and TrueCar users save an average of over $3,000 off MSRP. So when you're ready to buy a new or used car, visit TrueCar.com or download the TrueCar app to enjoy a better car buying experience. Some features not available in all states. How did you get the call up to WCW?
Well, Eddie and I were in Continental. He was booking Continental. And so Eddie called
Where
Dusty.
was Continental based out of?
Alabama.
But what
Montgomery,
town?
Alabama. Montgomery.
Okay.
Yeah, Montgomery,
And that was
Alabama.
a great territory for a while.
Yeah, Eddie booked. I mean, they were running nothing, and then Eddie came in and started running, and they got it up really good. It was good for about a year. It was going really good. But then David Woods, the guy that owns it, wasn't a wrestling guy, and he wanted to change things and do things and stuff like that. So when we found out once Crockett, got sold to TBS, Eddie called Dusty, and Dusty had us come over there, and we got a job then.
Okay, now tell me about what year was that? Because I went...
89.
89. Yeah, because I got there in...
91.
Golly, you know my career better than I did. I got there in 91, but here was the deal. They told me this. I went to see Dusty. He had the book, as you know. And so he goes, yeah, baby. He goes, so what's your wrestling name? I said, well, I'm going to Stunning Steve right now. He goes, you working heel or baby? He knew, but he's just asking me.
Right.
I said, well, Dusty, I'm working heel. And he goes, all right. He told me what the deal was. The deal was back then when I came in, Missy, was when you walked through the doors in WCW, you signed a contract at that time for $75,000 a year.
Right.
Then the next year it would double to 156, or some guys got the 104 deal, but for most guys it doubled to 156. And then after that, you were on your own as far as negotiating whatever happened after that. So all of a sudden, I went from making, at the time I had about $100 a night guarantee from Jerry Jarrett in the USWA, up from the 15 and 20. This is my second tour back. and all of a sudden I go into WCW, I'm making 75 G's a year. So when y'all go in, what's the money situation? Was that another guaranteed contract like I just put out?
Contract. Yeah, that was another guaranteed contract. It was 75.
Yep.
It was 75. It was just the basic 75. But they wanted to give. They really, it was a deal thing. It was $150 for both of us.
Oh, that's a pretty good package deal.
Yeah, that was like a package thing. So that's how they did it when we first started. But then, me and Eddie ended up breaking up, and then I had to go on my own, and that was a whole other long trying to negotiate, and I never really made that much money in WCW.
So how long did you end up staying there?
5 years.
That's a pretty good stay.
Yeah, that's a great stay. It's a great stay.
So when you break up with...
And I would have stayed longer, but, things happen.
So when you break up with Eddie, he was still in the territory, right?
Yeah, for a little bit.
For just a little bit.
But then he left.
So then who were you traveling with, those last few years?
I didn't travel with anybody. I traveled by myself. I really went by myself because I was first I was managing, and then I was hosting the show. When me and Eddie broke up, I was hosting the show, so I traveled by myself. I didn't go, I would have my own rent-a-car. I'd fly to the, place myself. And then Jason, the guy I was dating, he would be with me a lot of the times. He would come with me a lot of the times. So that's who I was traveling with. And then when we broke up, then I was still back by myself traveling. But then I never wanted to go back managing again. And that's a question I wanted to ask you too, because you and Brian in 93, when you were with Brian, that whole time for those worldwide tapings were courting me as your manager. Where was that ever going to go?
I don't know. I don't know. I guess somebody pitched me that idea, or pitched us that idea. Brian thought of a lot of the stuff for us. He always thought about the gold chains, the matching trunks, the vest. Yeah,
because I went to Eric, and I was just like, I went to Dusty. I go, why am I managing the Nasty Boys? I go, I don't want to manage them. I go, it means more. I go, I should manage the Hollywood Blondes. That would be more me. That would be more my character than the Nasty Boys, whatever. But the thing is that after Jason and I broke up, Jason was good friends with Bischoff, and Jason knew that I didn't want to be a manager, that I loved hosting the shows. So that's why I was back as a manager. And then that's why I didn't get my contract renewed because of Jason, it took me 10 years to figure. It took me 10 years and about $60,000 at Marymount Manhattan College in psychology to figure out that one.
Hey, I don't know if you remember this or not. I think I have it correctly. When I made my debut in WCW, if I'm not mistaken, I thought it was it Fayetteville, North Carolina? A lot of things happened in Fayetteville, or probably it might have been Center Stage even. No, it was Florence, South Carolina.
I think it was.
You interviewed me.
Yeah, I interviewed you. And who was the girl? Who was that? Whose idea was it to bring Vivacious Veronica in?
Dusty Rhodes. It was either Dusty or Magnum. They just figured, hey, man, I needed a woman, a chick with me, a manager. Be respectful, I don't mean that in a bad way. They just pictured me with a manager, and I wasn't quite as talkative as I would end up being a Stone Cold. But I just remember that first interview. I went out there, and I'm walking to the ring. Of course, I'm nervous as hell, man. This is WCW. I mean, this is almost the big leagues, because WWE or WWF at the time was still the bigs, right? And I'm walking out there, and I hear this from Hollywood, California, weighing 252 pounds, and I'm sitting there, as I'm walking to the ring where you're standing, I'm saying to myself, who the fuck are they talking about? Am I going to the wrong ring? I ain't from Hollywood. And they said, Stunning Steve Austin. I think it was Gary Michael Capetta. And I was like, what the fuck? How did they decide I was going to be from Hollywood, California arbitrarily without asking me a goddamn thing? So,
I know.
And here's the thing, Missy. I went out there. I don't remember too much of the interview, but I went back, and I had a damn booger right on the inside edge of my nose. And I was so embarrassed. I just went on national/worldwide TV with the bear in the cave. And not one single motherfucker could smarten me up and say, hey, dude, before you go make your debut on national television, pull that booger out of your nose.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't see it, or I would have told you. If I would have seen it, I would have told you.
That would have been a great moment if you'd have just stopped it right there in the middle of the interview. Hey, go check yourself.
Excuse me, if you want to blow your nose.
So what was the end of your run in WCW? What happened there?
That's what it was. They came to me and told me I had another contract coming, but then something happened. We were down there at doing the TV tapings
Orlando?
down in Orlando, and I forget exactly what happened. Oh, I remember the Clash of the Champions. We were having, when we used to have the Clash of the Champions right before the pay-per-view, and so on the Clash of the Champions, it was the Nasty Boys with their titles up against Mick Foley and another crazy-looking guy.
Right.
Mick Foley, I forget who it was. Anyway. So they screwed up at the Clash, and they didn't get the timing right, and so they didn't get the 1, 2. They were supposed to get the 1, 2, 3 after the 10-minute time limit was up, and so they didn't see that on TV. The people at home saw that, but the people at home didn't see that. But on the replay, they showed I run in the ring and I get kissed by the two guys, by Mick Foley and the other guy, and I'm spitting and being nasty, nasty, nasty. And so I remember it was not Jim Hurd, it was Kip Fry or one of those. One
Bob
of those
Dew,
guys,
Kip Fry, whatever.
Yeah, Bob. It was Bob. He asked me, how did the Clash go? And I told him, I said, well, I go, you're trying to sell the pay-per-view is that it's a no time limit match, and that the guys won on the Clash, but they didn't see it at home. They didn't see the 1, 2, 3 and the time limit. I go, instead of on the replay of me, the replay seeing the blonde girl get kissed by the ugly guys, shouldn't they have shown the replay of they got the 1, 2, 3, and then the referee saying, no, the time limit's already out? And so he said, yeah, you're right. They should have done that. Well, I was rollerblading that night around the thing, and Eric Bischoff came up to me, and he's like, don't you ever go over my head again. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, you went over my head, and you told them something, about the Clash of the Champions. I'm like, no, they just asked my opinion, and I gave them my opinion. That's all. And then the next day, I was told not to get on the bus. And then I found out later that that my contract wasn't getting renewed. And that was it.
No shit.
Yeah, that was it. But I know it's been because Jason and Bischoff are really good friends, and I know that, I know how guys are, and I know how girls are. It's the same thing with girls. But I do have to say that if it wouldn't have happened, I never would have gotten to move to New York City.
Really?
And I never would have gone to college. And I think was the best. Because if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere.
That's true. And I always say if you can get over in front of a New York crowd, you can get over anywhere when it comes to the wrestling business. But let me ask you, that happens at Clash of Champions, all of a sudden you don't have a contract, you're out of the business.
Right.
So how did you process this? Because, I got a FedEx in the mail after I got a phone call from Janie Engel, letting me know that I'd gotten fired. And so that was it for me. And then, luckily enough, Paul E. called me and I went to ECW. You're out of the business because you basically got a door slammed in your face. Were you angry? Did you feel mistreated?
I had my feelings hurt. I cried. I'm a girl. I cried. And I was like, what am I going to do now? What am I going to do now? And then I started thinking, well, I'm going to move to New York, And so within a month, I moved to New York City.
What about the brief stay in WWE?
Oh, like that? No, the brief stay in WWE happened in 1988.
Oh, that's I'm way out of time here.
Yeah, that was back in 1988.
What happened there? It seems to me you would be tailor-made for WWF.
Oh, my God, yeah, I thought so, too. But let me tell you, I was so green. They wanted me to take over Piper's Pit, and they had me scripted, and I went out there, and I did it, and they had me be a baby face, and it was so horrible. If you saw the tapes of my Missy's Manors, you would want to die. plus my Southern accent was so bad. It was just like, hey, y'all. How y'all doing out there? I mean, it was
I went back, and before we talked, I watched some of those, and I was like, wow, Missy's so much better than this, because you are, and because I know you, and we've always talked, and you've always done great promos when you have a promo to do. So I could tell that you were heavily scripted, and like you said, you were green, but you weren't comfortable being. If they just said, hey, here's our main points, go do your thing.
Yeah, I mean, and I asked him, and I begged Vince. I said, let me go out there and be Missy Hyatt and be me, and let me interview these guys the way I want to interview them. I didn't even know on one of them to hand the microphone over.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, there's a couple of awkward things there.
And because I had never done the microphone thing, but I went and called Eddie, and Eddie said, no, don't do that. Come home. Dusty will give you a job. And so I did. I told Vince, no, I can't do it. And that was probably the stupidest thing I ever did in my life. But
why?
Because if I would have stayed, who knows?
Right.
You know, who knows? Because, I mean, I'll never forget when I first met Jim Crockett. Jim Crockett just bought UWF, and I was going to WWE. And I walked up to Jim Crockett and I go, hi, I'm Missy Hyatt. I want out of my contract. I'm going to WWE, and I'm going to get me a doll. You know, and he was like, okay, we'll let you out of your contract. I said, okay, thank you. You know, and I was so happy to go to Vince, thinking that, you know, because Vince told me, oh, you're gonna take over Piper's Pit, and I did all these promos about how it's taken a woman to take over a man's job, you know, for Piper's Pit. I did these promos like that, and I mean, and Vince had me. You're never gonna be able to go to the grocery store alone. You're gonna have to have security. You're gonna be a superstar. You know how Vince talks. You know how it is.
What was the difference in that territory versus all the ones you've been? Because New York is different than anybody else, in my opinion.
Well, to me, I mean, I was only there for like 3 tapings. Right. So, I mean, I stayed away from everybody. I mean, I had like my own dressing room, and I was like, and the first time I met Hulk Hogan, it was funny. He's like, so I heard you're here to take my spot. And I'm like, no, your chest is still bigger than mine. You know? And he liked that. So I guess he's always been very nice to me since. So
you're there for a cup of coffee. Did it feel good to go back to the South?
Yeah, but I felt like I had a tail between my legs, because I was like thinking that I was going to become a big superstar, and I had to go back to Dusty, and I had to go back with my tail between my legs and go back to Jim Crockett and go, hi, can I have a job back, please? Yeah.
And that's so hard to do, but you know, sometimes as like a guy in the ring, sometimes you can go out there and you know maybe 5-6 years in the business, maybe 7 or 3, wherever you're at, and all of a sudden you're thinking, hey man, I got this. I'm pretty fucking good, you know. And you got to have confidence in yourself, or if you don't, no one's going to believe in you. And all of a sudden you go out there and you shit the bed, or something happens, you blow an angle or fuck something up, and you're like, you know, maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was. And so it's the business has many steps along the way that will humble you, make you rethink things, and reset you, because you'll get on a little bit of run of confidence. All of a sudden it's like, okay, I'm not as good as I thought I was. I need to get my shit down a little bit better.
Right. Well, yeah, and that's what really upset me too, is after I left WCW, that WWE never called. Like, I thought for sure they would have called just because, you know, I was still damn good at what I was doing, and I was still young. You know, I was 30. I wasn't an old hag yet, you know.
No, you had 9 years in the business. You were a veteran, and you were just coming into your prime.
Yeah.
And you're smart, too, because, like you said, you wanted them to call you. You know the deal. You never want to make the phone call. You know, like Eddie made the phone call that one time. Right. In parts of your career, you do. But always you want them to call you. Right.
Yeah, and they never called me. And so, you know, nothing ever happened.
Hey, tell me about your run in ECW.
Oh, my gosh.
How wild was that? Because out of all the dressing rooms that I have been in, the ones that I've heard about in the mid-'80s and world class, when I went up there in 95, you know, I'll just say that there was different cliques.
96, right after you. I was right there after you.
Really? Is that when you went in there?
Yeah, 96.
Okay, that was the damnedest dressing room I'd ever seen. I'll leave it at that. Would you agree?
Beer everywhere. Sandman being so drunk that he couldn't even get up to the top rope. Just the craziness. You could never find a chair. I could never find a chair to sit in because they were all broken, in the back.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
It was a great bunch of guys, though, because Paul Lee, you've known Paul Lee forever. Are y'all pretty close?
Yeah, if it wasn't, let me tell you something. Paul Lee should appreciate and love me to death, because when Eddie and I met Paul Lee had only been in wrestling for like maybe 6 months, and we met him. And I told Eddie, you got to hire him and bring him to Alabama. And he brought him to Alabama, and then he assisted Eddie in booking and stuff like that. But if it wasn't for me, because Eddie wasn't sure about it, Eddie didn't. I'm not gonna, And then Paul moved from New York all the way down to Alabama and lived with us in our apartment.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
See, this is gold. I've never known this. And, of course, I've seen so much footage of Paulie down there in Continental with the big, gigantic cell phone.
Oh, yeah, with that big phone.
So you told Eddie, hire this guy. So how was Paul Lee to live with? Because I know you guys aren't making shit piles of money at this time. So how was that living dynamic?
I never went into his bedroom or his bathroom. I kind of let him stay in there. But one time I did go in there, and all I saw was a bunch of white shirts and baseball cards. That's the only thing I saw in his room.
So Paulie's a baseball card collector?
I guess he was.
What did you see in Paulie back in the day? Because, when I go back and look at that old stuff, and you and I were talking on the phone, we're not going to talk too much about the current product. But when you watch his promos now, the level he's at right now was just, it's different from a Jim Cornette, who's phenomenal, or all your other great talkers. But Paul Lee, back in the day, even at Continental, when he was just starting, he hustled his way into business. He was a silver-tongued devil laying down golden promos way back as a kid.
Yes, he was so good. And that's when I first met him. And I met him at we were doing something in Atlanta, so at some Cow Palace thing in Atlanta, and we met him, and he was down there, and he just got fired, I think, from Vern Gagne or something, and he wasn't really working, and he was down there, and he was so obnoxious, that New York obnoxious, doing his promos, and I fell in love with him. I was like, oh my God, and we would talk on the phone, like hours every night on the phone, me and him talking, and I finally told Eddie, you got to get this guy to have him come down. We were still living in Tennessee at the time, but I was like, because we were working for Memphis, but I told him, I was like, you've got to get this guy, you got to bring him to Continental. He's the best. He's going to be a great manager. He's going to be the bomb, and so so Eddie did. So I was glad.
When you decided to move to New York to get your degree, why New York? There's plenty of colleges in Atlanta. There's college down in Florida. Why did you have to go to New York?
Because when I went to New York, we went up there to do our picks when we got on Pick Station, when UWF did, and we went up there and to do promos. And I'll never forget being in the limo and going through the Lincoln Tunnel and coming up in New York, and I had a feeling this is where I belong. And I just had that feeling.
Why do you think that was? Because, the first time when I started working for WWF, I drove to the Garden for 2 shots. And, when you get into the Garden, New York's laid out in a grid. It's pretty user-friendly, but like when the pedestrians keep walking across the street when you have the green light. So all the cars behind you are like, and I'm like, what the fuck, man?
This is what you have to do, and this is what I do. If you have the green light, you speed up. And if you have the yellow light, and you let those people take their packages and scream and run, because you have the right-of-way in New York.
I know, I get it now, but this was back when I was still a country bumpkin. talking, like I was 7 years in the business from Edna, Texas, 5,000 people, and all of a sudden I'm in New York City going to the Garden. And I told those people, I told the office, and I didn't have any stroke at the time. I was a ringmaster, for God's sake. And I said, hey, man, next time you guys book me in the Garden, I need a ride. And so I did ride with Billy Gunn or ride with one of the boys, or I'd make them send a car for me because I ain't driving in that shit.
Right. I liked it because where I lived at West 75th and Riverside, which is on Upper West Side, and I never heard any trucks, sirens. I mean, I was on the first floor of a brownstone. I had a nice little apartment. I could see Riverside Park. I mean, I could walk my dog. I was in the city, but I could go 2 blocks to Broadway and be in the middle of everything. But then I could go 2 blocks and just be to me, it was like a country street.
How long did it take you to come down from New York to adjust back to life in Florida? Because without the hustle bustle, not the 24/7 pizza or whatever you want, New York is 24/7 anything.
You know what? I pretty adjusted because, I mean, I adjust easy. I've lived so many different places. I've adjusted.
Are you a homebody now, or are you still out on the town?
Yeah. I'm a homebody. I don't go out very much. I mean, I work and that's about it. And I do my reenacting. That's my only thing that I do that I like to do is my reenacting.
You got any hobbies doing your downtime?
Yeah, that's my reenacting.
Reenacting, but I mean, like, are you a reader? Are you an outdoor person? Do you fish?
I sew clothes for my reenacting, and then for my birthday, I just bought me a 1936 German Luger. So I like guns. I collect guns.
Hey, Missy, let's call this Missy Hyatt Part 1.
Okay.
And then we'll talk in a few days, and we'll do Missy Hyatt Part 2, and it'll be you asking me your list of questions.
And then I'll be asking you. Okay, that sounds great.
We got a deal?
We got a deal.
Hey, Missy, it was good talking to you.
Nice talking to you, too.
All right, everybody, give me the go-home cue. It's time to wrap up this podcast and ride off in the sunset. But before I do, I want to thank my guest, Missy Hyatt, for joining me on the show. She'll be back next week. She's going to ask me a couple questions, continue our conversation. I am right in between challenges out here at the Broken Skull Challenge compound. We're going into round 2. Right now, let me throw out a couple of plugs. While I still got my voice, I've been yelling words of encouragement and motivation and instruction. Broken Skull IPA from El Segundo Brewing Company is at Whole Foods and Total Wines if you live in California. If you don't, go to BrokenSkullRanch.com, click on the link, and you can have it shipped to your state if your state allows that. All my T-shirts, stuff that I'm wearing right now, is available at BrokenSkullRanch.com, all the Broken Skull Ranch stuff. Hey, the big thing I want to do here before I lose my voice is thank all the sponsors of the Steve Austin Podcast. They're the ones that let me do this for you free twice a week. Big thanks to DDPYoga.com. Go to DDPYoga.com/Austin to get 20% off the DDP Yoga program and 3 months of full access to the DDP Yoga Now app. Big thanks to DraftKings. Go to DraftKings.com and use the promo code UNLEASHED to play for free with your first deposit. Big thanks to Onnit. Go to Onnit.com/Steve to get 10% off your order. Big thanks to BetDSI.com. Use my promo code Austin25 to get $25 free to try the service. Big thanks to TrueCar and, of course, Amazon, who have been supporting podcasts since day one. If you use my Amazon links whenever you're doing any online shopping, Amazon will kick back a couple of bucks to the podcast. It doesn't cost you anything extra. There's no hidden fees or charges. You can buy whatever you was planning on buying and help out the podcast in the process. You can find my Amazon links by going to PodcastOne.com, clicking on the Killer Deals button in the top right corner of the page, and then hitting the Steve Austin Show button. I got Amazon links for Amazon USA, Amazon UK, and Amazon Canada. So again, just go to PodcastOne.com, click the Killer Deals button in the top right corner, then click on the Steve Austin Show. All of my great sponsors are there. All of my Amazon links are there too, and Amazon will kick back a couple of bucks to the podcast when you use one of those links. Hey, it ain't going to cost you nothing extra. It's just a way to support the show. That's how we pay our production cost. Bookmarking, you can find it in one step. Hey, folks, keep listening. The 60-second AP News headlines are coming up next. Until then, my name is Steve Austin, and I will catch your ass down the road.
Download new episodes of Steve Austin Unleashed every Thursday at PodcastOne.com. That's PodcastOne.com.